Hello students, welcome to today's science class. So in today's class, we are going to learn about atomic theories and the topic for the class is inside an atom. So let us begin. So before beginning the class, I want you all to observe this picture. So what all do we observe in this picture? Correct, we can observe a lot of sweet delicacies of Indian origin. That is gulab jamuns, we have rabdi, we have jalebis and all these laddus and all these sweet stuff, right? Okay. But students, have you ever heard about a plum pudding? Well, if you haven't, then it's okay because I think we all have heard about a plum cake, right? Yeah. So, a plum pudding is very much similar to a plum cake that we have during the times of Christmas. Okay, so let us look at the plum pudding. So that is how a real plum pudding looks like. This part that you can see is a cakey part, and inside this, the blackish or the dark brownish part that you all can see in this represents the plums, that are small, small pieces of the plum that are put in the cake mixture. So this is our plum pudding. So there was a scientist student, his name was J.J. Thomson. Okay, and he came up with this theory of an atom using this plum pudding. So are you all interested in knowing how and how did he use this? Well, let's look at how he used it. Okay, so he named that model as the plum pudding model. So this theory was given by Sir J.J. Thomson, that is his picture over there. Okay, and he used this plum pudding as a medium for his theory. Now, what did he assume in his theory? So, he assumed that this part, when you cut the plum pudding, you can see this light brownish part. He assumed that part to have a positive charge. Okay, and this reddish part that you all can see, these plum pieces, he assumed that these plum pieces have a negative charge. So that was the first assumption put by Sir John J.J. Thomson. So, Thomson assumed that the plum pudding is a positively charged sphere and the pieces of plum inside it are electrons having a negative charge. Okay, so students, to understand more about the theory, let us take an example of two friends. This is Sita and this is Rahul. So, Sita had two apples on her plate, but she didn't feel like eating any. So she gave away those two apples to Rahul. Okay. So now how many apples are Sita left with? So Sita initially had two apples. She gave those two away to Rahul. So she is left with, correct, she is left with no apples. She has zero apples left. Similarly, he assumed he used this theory or this concept in an atom too. So he put forth that the negatively charged plum pieces, he assumed those plum pieces as electrons. Okay, so he assumed that those negatively charged plum pieces would balance the positively charged pudding. And thus, overall, the charge on the atom would thus be zero. So, that means the atom is electrically neutral. So, he put forth this postulate of an atom. I hope I am clear, students. Okay. So now let us use this theory as a for the analogy. I'm using a very common example that we all relish on, that is the watermelon. Okay. So we can apply the same theory on a watermelon too. The red part of the watermelon would represent the positively charged sphere, whereas the seeds, that is, these black seeds, would represent the electrons which are embedded in them. So the red part has a positive charge. The black part or the black seeds in the watermelon are the electrons having a negative charge. So overall, the charge comes to zero. That means the atom is electrically neutral. So you can use the watermelon too for this theory. Okay, students. So that was about Sir J.J. Thomson. But there comes another scientist. His name was Rutherford. So Rutherford gave an experiment of known as the Rutherford scattering experiment. That is this picture over there. So he put forth the nuclear model of an atom in the year 1911. Okay, and I think you all know what this is, right? This is a aluminium foil, correct? But he used something similar, but that was a gold foil for this experiment. Okay, students. So he used a very thinly sliced gold foil for this experiment, and we can't even think how thin that slice was because it was 10 raised to minus 4 millimeter. Okay, 1 millimeter is just one division on a scale, and 10 raised to minus 4 millimeter is much small, much thinner than that. Okay, so he used that thin a slice or a foil for this experiment. Okay, and he bombarded that foil with a positively charged alpha particle ray. Okay, and that was how the experiment assembly looked like. But if we just look at this assembly, I don't think we'll be able to understand what exactly happened. So let us look at something else to understand how exactly Rutherford's experiment took place. Okay, so yeah, so students, we saw that he used a very thinly sliced gold foil. So this is the gold foil that he used. This was the part or the source from where the alpha particles were emitted. Okay, and this entire thing is a scintillation screen. So let us see what happened when he performed this experiment. Okay, students, so I want you all to observe this very carefully. So we notice that many particles pass through this gold foil and go over there, correct? But we also observe that some of the particles are bouncing over here. Can you all see? See, it's going over there. It is not going straight, some are going at an angle, tilted. But we also can see that some are just bouncing back. If you observe carefully, some are bouncing back. So that was the first part of his experiment. Now let us look at the zoomed view to understand the experiment better. So here we have the gold foil. This is the gold foil, okay, and these are the positively charged nucleus of the gold foil, okay. And here the emission of alpha particles take place. Alpha particles are positively charged particles, okay. So as soon as I start the emission, I can notice that many particles are coming over here on this side, okay, straight. But some particles I can see are coming at an angle, tilted over here. See, as you can see this one over here, correct? Also, I can also see that some particles are bouncing back, like see this one. See, it bounced back. See this one. Okay. So, these were the things that he observed during his experiment. Now, what does that mean? To learn about it, let's look further. So, his observations were that this is the gold foil, these are the alpha particles. Many alpha particles passed straight through the gold foil. Some alpha particles deviated with an angle while some just turned back. If you can see over here, this just turned back. This deviated, this passed straight, and these two also passed straight. So many of them passed straight. Okay, so these are the three observations that I just said. Okay, students, let's go further. Now, because Thomson had already put up a model of, we have just learned, I think you all know it by now, the electroneutrality principle. Okay, so Thomson had assumed that atom is electrically neutral. So in a neutral substance, if I add anything, if I pass anything through it, it should pass. Am I right? So Rutherford also assumed that since an atom is electrically neutral, I can pass as many alpha particles as possible and they would pass straightly through it. But we just saw the experiment, we just saw the simulation. This doesn't hold true. Am I right? What we saw was, though many were passing straight, but there were some which were passing at an angle. Also, some were there which were passing, which were not passing at all. They were just bouncing back towards the source. So, this created a confusion in the mind of Rutherford. So, let's look what he did to come with his model of of an atom. So, now, students, we all know about magnets, right? A magnet has two poles. If you can see this picture over here, the two like poles of a magnet are repelling each other, whereas the two unlike poles of the magnet are attracting each other. Correct? So, he used the same principle over here. Okay? So, since the like poles repel each other, he assumed that there is a positively charged nucleus at the center. Why positively charged center? Because some of the atoms were bouncing back. Am I right? Yeah. So that means some of the atoms were repelling. And the alpha particle that he used were also positively charged. Correct? So he assumed that the atom has a nucleus which is a positively charged species. And whenever bombard it with any other positively charged species, will it attract? Obviously not. It will repel. That is why some of the particles bounced back. So that was his first conclusion. Let us look at the second one. Now, students, if I take a small object like a ball, if you can see over here, and I throw it on a wall, what do we observe? We see that the ball is coming back to us. As you all can see over here, the person is throwing the ball and the ball is coming back to him. Right? So, which is the heavier object over here? The heavier object is the wall. Correct? And the lighter object is the ball that the person is having in his hand. Okay. So if I throw a smaller or a lighter object onto a heavier object, the lighter object will bounce back. Am I right? Yes. So it bounced back because the heavier object is heavy enough that the lighter object doesn't have any effect on it. So that is why he came up with the second conclusion that says that the almost the entire mass of the atom is concentrated in its nucleus. So he assumed that the nucleus is a very heavy body, and because of its heaviness, one alpha particle having a very less mass as compared to that bigger mass of the nucleus, some particles are getting bounced back. So that was his second conclusion. Now, he also assumed that the negatively charged particles revolve around the nucleus. Okay, so uh, we had learned about Thomson, right? Thomson had assumed that the electrons were embedded in the nucleus. Okay, and that is why the entire thing becomes electrically neutral. But this one says, Rutherford says that the nucleus is in the center and all the particles are revolving around it, and those particles which revolve around the nucleus have a negative charge. So that is how his theory is different from that of Thomson. Now let's look at something else. Now, this concept is not a new one. This is taken from J.J. Thomson only. He also understood that the total positive and the negative charge on an atom is equal. Hence, the atom is electrically neutral, just as what Thomson said. So he agreed by this statement of Thomson, but just he differs in the sense that he doesn't say that unlike Thomson, what Thomson said that all the electrons are also embedded in the nucleus. But he says no, the electrons are not embedded in the nucleus. The nucleus is heavy, it is dense, it has a positive charge at the center, But the negative charges are not present in the nucleus, but they revolve around the nucleus. So that was his fourth one. Let's look at the fifth one. He assumes that there's an empty space between the revolving electrons and nucleus. Now, to understand this better, I want you all to watch this video. Now, I have over here some marble pieces, a bangle, and a lid. So, first, I have this lid, and I'm putting these marbles over here. Okay, now I took this bangle. Now I'm putting all the marble pieces across it. Okay, so that was it, students. Now, if you all can see, when I took the yellow color lid and I was passing all the marble pieces, none of the pieces were getting, passed through the lid. Why? Because there was no empty space in between. Correct? But when I took a ring or a bangle in this case, and when I tried to pass these small, small marble pieces through it, I could see that all the pieces were getting passed through it. And in Rutherford's nuclear model also, we saw that most of the particles were passing through it. That means there has to be empty space. Am I right? Correct. That means there is an empty space between the revolving electron and the nucleus. So he assumed that not only there is a nucleus, not only there are electrons, but there is also a lot of empty space. And because of those empty spaces, many alpha particles were getting passed through the nucleus. Okay, so that was his the last conclusion, and this is his model. Now I know this is not the correct model, but still this model gave the scientists ahead to think about uh, mo- how actually to decipher the exact model of an atom. Okay, so he came up with this red dot, which is the positively charged nucleus. Okay, and sorry, and these black dots he assumed are electrons which are not present in the nucleus but present around the nucleus, and they are revolving. And there's a lot of empty space if you can see over here. In Thomson's model, there was no empty space. There was just a dense pudding which was of positive charge. There were some raisin pieces or plum pieces which were having negative charge. But over here, we have a thick positively charged nucleus and negatively charged electrons revolving around the nucleus. So that was about Rutherford's nuclear model. Now let's do a quick recap of both the theories that we've learned today. The first one was Thomson's atomic model, which was about the Thomson's plum pudding model, the electroneutrality principle. The next is about Rutherford's nuclear model, which was through the Rutherford scattering experiment. Okay, so students, let's do a quick test to see if we know what Rutherford is and what his theories were. Okay, so the particles used by Rutherford in the experiment, which were the particles? They were alpha particles, correct? So I think I've just missed a spelling over here. Alpha particles. Okay, next we have I carry negative charge. Negative charge is carried out by electrons, correct? We write electrons over here. Let's look at this one. I put forth the plum pudding model. Plum pudding model was put forth by Sir J.J. Thomson. Let's look at this one. The entire mass of the atom is concentrated within me. What would be the answer, students? Correct. Would be nucleus. Let's look over here. I was used by Rutherford for the scattering experiment. He used the gold foil. Okay? Gold, oil. Okay. What about this? The last one. Elements are made up of me. We all know elements are made up of atoms. Correct? Atoms. So let's check our answers. Our answers are correct. Okay. So that was it, students, for today's class. Thank you all for your attention and time.